Have you ever met someone who thrives on being the victim, yet always manages to make everything about them? Welcome to the perplexing world of the poor me narcissist. Today, we're peeling back the layers of this complex psychological pattern that blends victimhood with covert narcissism. In the intricate tapestry of human behavior, few threads are as tangled as those of the poor me narcissist. At first glance, they might seem like perpetual victims, constantly beset by bad luck and the cruelty of others. But look closer, and you'll see a masterful puppeteer pulling the strings of sympathy to feed their narcissistic needs. The poor me narcissist is a master of disguise. They wear the cloak of victimhood like a second skin, but underneath lies a core of narcissistic traits that drive their behavior. This unique combination creates a personality that can be incredibly frustrating and confusing for those around them. At the heart of this pattern lies an insatiable need for specialness and an unrelenting focus on the self. It's a constant refrain of me, disguised as a litany of complaints and misfortunes. Every conversation, every interaction, somehow always circles back to them and their problems. This perpetual self-focus is exhausting for those around them, as it leaves little room for genuine reciprocity or concern for others. The poor me narcissist's sense of specialness doesn't stem from grandiose achievements or overt claims of superiority. Instead, it's rooted in their belief that their suffering is unique, their challenges insurmountable, their pain more acute than anyone else's. This perceived exceptional status in the realm of misfortune becomes their identity, their claim to attention and care. Let's start by understanding the victimhood aspect of this pattern. The poor me narcissist seems to attract misfortune like a magnet. Every story they tell, every anecdote they share, positions them as the victim of circumstances beyond their control. They're always the one who's been wronged, overlooked, or mistreated. This constant state of victimhood serves a dual purpose. It garners sympathy from others and absolves them of responsibility for their actions or circumstances. But unlike someone genuinely struggling with a particular situation, the poor me narcissist doesn't just want your sympathy, they demand it. Their tales of woe aren't shared in a spirit of vulnerability or connection. Instead, they're wielded like weapons, designed to manipulate emotions and control narratives. This is where the narcissistic traits begin to show through the cracks in their victim facade. While they may not display the grandiose, attention-seeking behavior we typically associate with narcissism, their need for admiration and special treatment is just as strong. It's simply expressed through different channels. Another hallmark of this pattern is an insatiable need for attention and validation. But instead of seeking praise for their accomplishments, the poor me narcissist craves acknowledgement of their suffering. They're not happy unless they're the most miserable person in the room. Any attempt to shift the conversation away from their problems is met with resistance, often in the form of one-upmanship. Your bad day can't possibly compare to their terrible week. This constant need for attention can be exhausting for those around them. Friends, family, and colleagues may find themselves drained by the never-ending stream of complaints and crises. The poor me narcissist seems to have an uncanny ability to turn any situation, no matter how positive, into an opportunity to highlight their victimhood. Despite their outward appearance of vulnerability, poor me narcissists are incredibly sensitive to criticism. Any suggestion that they might be responsible for their problems is met with fierce defensiveness or with passive aggressiveness. These reactions stem from the fragile self-esteem that underlies their narcissistic traits. Their victim identity is a shield, protecting them from having to confront their own flaws or take responsibility for their actions. The poor me narcissist's relationship with empathy is particularly complex. They demand empathy from others but struggle to reciprocate. When someone else shares a problem, the poor me narcissist often responds by hijacking the conversation, steering it back to their own issues. This lack of empathy can make maintaining relationships challenging, as others eventually tire of the one-sided emotional exchange. Interestingly, though, the poor me narcissist often pays lip service to good manners and may appear genuinely interested in others at first glance. They might ask about your day, inquire after your family, or offer sympathetic nods at appropriate moments. However, these are often just polite interventions, learned behaviors that mimic social niceties rather than expressions of genuine concern. This superficial engagement serves multiple purposes. It maintains their image as a caring person, creates a social contract where others are expected to listen to them in return, and paves the way for steering conversations back to their own problems. If you observe closely, you'll notice their responses lack depth, and they quickly relate others' experiences back to their own, invariably more dramatic circumstances. At times, you might experience what seems like genuine interest from a poor me narcissist. They might listen intently to your stories, ask probing questions, and appear deeply engaged in your experiences. This can feel refreshing and may even lead you to believe you've broken through their self-absorption. However, be cautious. Often, this apparent interest is merely setting the stage for comparison. They're gathering information, not out of sincere concern, but to fuel their next tale of woe. Once you've shared your story, they'll use it as a launching pad to describe how their own situation is far worse, more complex, or more unfair. This tactic allows them to maintain their position as the ultimate victim while giving the illusion of reciprocal conversation. Another fascinating aspect of this pattern is the poor me narcissist's relationship with success. You might think someone so focused on their misfortunes would welcome positive changes in their life, but often the opposite is true. Success threatens their victim identity, which has become a core part of who they are. As a result, they may unconsciously sabotage opportunities for improvement or find ways to create new problems to maintain their status as the eternal victim. This negative worldview can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. By constantly expecting the worst, they may inadvertently create the very circumstances they fear. Their pessimism can push away potential allies, sabotage professional opportunities, and strain personal relationships. Yet, true to form, they'll interpret these outcomes not as the results of their behavior, but as further evidence of their victimhood. The manipulative aspect of the poor me narcissist shouldn't be underestimated. While their tactics might seem less overt than those of a more typical narcissist, they're no less effective. By constantly positioning themselves as the victim, they create a dynamic where others feel obligated to cater to their needs. This can lead to a form of emotional blackmail, where people walk on eggshells to avoid triggering another crisis or complaint. It's important to note that the poor me narcissist isn't consciously plotting their manipulations. Like most narcissistic behaviors, these patterns often stem from deep-seated insecurities and unresolved traumas. The victim role provides a sense of safety and control in a world that feels chaotic and threatening. So, how can we deal with the poor me narcissist in our lives? The first step is recognition. Understanding this pattern allows us to see beyond the victim facade and recognize the narcissistic traits driving the behavior. This awareness can help us maintain emotional boundaries and avoid getting drawn into their drama. Setting clear boundaries is crucial when dealing with a poor me narcissist. It's okay to offer support, but it's equally important to limit the amount of emotional energy we invest in their never-ending crises. Learning to validate their feelings without necessarily agreeing with their interpretation of events can be a useful strategy. For those in close relationships with a poor me narcissist, encouraging professional help can be beneficial. However, it's important to recognize that change must come from within. No amount of external support can force someone to confront their patterns if they're not ready to do so. If you recognize these traits in yourself, it's important to approach self-reflection with compassion. These patterns often develop as coping mechanisms in response to genuine pain or trauma. Seeking the help of a mental health professional can provide the tools and support needed to develop healthier ways of relating to yourself and others. As we conclude our exploration of the poor me narcissist, it's clear that this pattern represents a complex interplay of victimhood and narcissism. It's a reminder of the intricacy of human psychology and the many ways our need for validation and connection can manifest. Remember, the goal in understanding these patterns isn't to judge or condemn, but to foster greater awareness and compassion, both for ourselves and for those struggling with these issues, so that we can navigate our relationships more effectively, set healthier boundaries, and perhaps even help those trapped in this pattern find a path towards more authentic connections and self-awareness. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and share it with others. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.